Ooh, counting down with Roxy in the show. You right there, Rox? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a really interesting chat today. So backing yourself, the third part of this quantum decision-making journey. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before we go live. We're just getting set up. I'll make sure that Roxy's in there. Got some gifts to send off in the background. So, and I'll probably have to move that if she goes. So yeah, very interesting today. Welcome to anyone that is up. Going to be really exciting. It's my first time getting all this ready with Roxy in the house. So unfortunately, she's probably just sleeping. But anyway, hope you guys are having a terrific last week of May. Very exciting stuff. Yeah, lots of things going on in the world. So I'm going to try and keep the focus to you and not politics and financials and health. 3 topics I'm staying off today: politics, financials, and health. Staying off those topics, by the way. But I will be talking about the biggest project of all, which is you, which is very exciting. So I'm going live in about 1 minute. If you've got questions for today's show as well, please pop them in the live chat, and I can see what you're asking me there, and hopefully I can, play the game. I try and keep these really short because I know everyone's busy. And welcome to those of you that are watching this on the replay from the States and from the UK. Thank you so much for your messages, and welcome to Monday Mojo, the third in a sequence. So I want to talk about this journey that you're coming on with me. If you've signed up for Monday Mojo, please hit the notifications button. If you're watching this video on replay or live, for those of you that are live, welcome. You can head to my website, thevitalitycoach.com.au, and you can see the full blog later, and you'll also get the Monday Mojo emails that will go out. But this is a series, part of my quantum decision-making course that I do with exceptional leaders. So I just wanted to give you guys insight for when you're not working with me, because I only take a certain number of clients a year, that I wanted to try and share some of the tips and tools to help you get out of the bumpy road of sitting in the passenger's seat of life and really grabbing the reins back and turning the key on to that Ferrari of yours and actually being in the driver's seat. So this is kind of the third part in a series of my Monday Mojos for May. So welcome, welcome, welcome. A couple of housekeeping tools. Please subscribe to the YouTube as well. I'm on Instagram and Fogden-Moore, and you can leave messages and comments there for things you'd like to have on the show. We're also going to be putting a special section on the YouTube channel with all the interviews from the Mojo Maker podcast. So some really great people that I've had on the show, and I'm really looking forward to some exceptional new guests that are coming up in 2020 as well, in line with very much the subjects that I'll be talking about in coaching. So this is about accessing all dimensions. Now, today's episode, I try and keep them about 15 to 20 minutes, just little bite-sized chunks. It's about 1% of your day. But I want you to understand that anything we do in life, you have to be prepared to take ownership for yourself. So that's your life, your body, your thoughts, your work. Really, no one else is running the show. It really is you. So you might have a lot of external factors that you have to factor in, and landscapes and considerations. But when it comes to your own decisions, it's you. So perhaps for the longest time, though, you've not really understood the difference between self-talk, which is our ego, the black wolf programming and patterns, and our true selves. And I always reference Eckhart Tolle because I think he's just the easiest way in his writings and audiobooks to understand the difference, that our ego is not our amigo, and how to discern that difference. So we both know with some of the videos and teachings that I've been putting up recently, I've actually been trying to give you a toolkit on how to learn to discern. So learn to discern who's really running your week, your day, your mindset. Is it your ego or is it yourself? And the vital difference. So the self-talk, that's that noisy little black wolf, the ego. It's the restrictor, it's the rules, it's the patterns, it's the program. It's kind of the fear-based stuff, which can often look like it's doing all the right things to put you in the driver's seat and make you look really successful. But actually it's keeping you at a certain layer, if you like, that is comfortable. So uncomfortably stuck or comfortable comfortably stuck, whichever it is, but it keeps you in this known kind of frequency, better the devil we know. And often it says to us that we're doing a really, really good job, but the ways that we are defining our success are on external validation factors. So the whole trick of really becoming into your quantum decision-making self is to actually let go of all those external validations and understand the incredible GPS that all of us, no matter what our title, what our experience, we can actually learn to access this part of ourselves. And it's a massive movement at the moment, and it's not new, but I think the teachings in a mass level are new because it really does empower you to be in the driver's seat of life. And that means being your free self. So intellect, continued self-growth, trust, unlimited possibilities, and really stepping into our truest potential. And I think that's kind of a bit challenging when you think you've done really well on the outside, and then you're sort of like, well, is this it? And you're sort of confronted with, I'm not really having a good time. I'm actually not really fulfilled. And this is just going round and round in circles. And whether that's a certain point in your life, a certain project that has happened, or a certain person that you're just not in alignment with anymore, it means you're not in alignment with yourself. So today, this week, I want to move on in the next level of understanding with you in quantum decision making. So far, you can look back at these videos, reverse mojo, self versus self-talk, and also the art of interdependence. So the self versus self-talk is listening to the true guide in you instead of your pattern program conversation, and how to actually discern that. It's one of the most valuable tools, and I would probably say above and beyond anything else as a leader. If you really want exceptional results without all the stress, this is what you have to understand. It's a fundamental self of reducing risk and friction and really coming into the flow, financially as well as personally. And the second thing is learning the art of interdependence. Now, this for me is something that's so subtle, because we're either brought up without knowing to be fiercely independent or hugely codependent. Even if it's a place or a project or a person, it doesn't really matter. We often have these martyrdom kind of like, rescuer and person in distress or project in distress, and you come in, you sort it all out, and you kind of feel great for a minute, and then you look for the next thing to rescue or to solve. And it's this continual cycle of kind of, putting oxygen on a fire and then having to stoke it again. And it's really exhausting to live a life like that, and also to be fiercely independent. So with a lot of the changes since the 1950s and 1960s and all the industrialism, before entrepreneurialism became something that was the norm, large organizations really run the show. But now we have all these entrepreneurs who are responsible for the majority of employment, majority of putting jobs out there, that are running huge organizations and often started from their own individual self. And we've also been taught to, trust no one, don't lean on anyone, do it yourself, work hard, all that sort of stuff, this fierce independence. So what we've lost sight of are two really vital things in leadership and humankind. Number one is that all of us are created with our unique and own kind of matrix of DNA. So we've got all these things that make us up in our quadrants, so our intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical quadrants. And they're all incredibly diverse and special for a reason, because we're all kind of meant to co-create together, to co-ideate together, to contribute and collaborate, but in our sovereign selves, not at the expense of ourselves. We've kind of lost that journey, and we've become either too similar or too fiercely opposing. So polarizing opposites of interdependence. And what's happened is we've got a fragmented society where people don't feel they can fit in, or they don't fit in enough. So we have to bring all of that back. And the best way to do that is to actually identify your sovereign self. And part of that is to understand that in order to seamlessly attract everything to you, work in projects that are in alignment, and truly be in the quantum physics flow of possibility and waves of energy, then you must strip back all the rules and containers that have kept you constrained into this point. It is absolutely impossible to have unlimited possibility if you're continuing to put a lid on something. So by default, I want to talk to you about the next step in that process. So listening to the true guide, reverse Mojo, understanding the role of interdependence, and that is the ultimate relationship. So having the first union with self, and then you can have the best union with others. And now this step of trusting yourself. Like, it's almost like a bit freaky because you hear this voice, it becomes louder, and then you don't know what to do with that voice. So today I want to give you the 3 kind of columns, if you like, to write out and understand how you actually start to back yourself. It's all very good to go, self-belief, self-worth, but your heart and your soul and your intellect, they're like muscles. So it's like working out at the gym. So if you've continually been training your thought pattern and your decision-making criteria in a certain way for so long, that is a formed muscle reaction to a certain idea, construct, opportunity, or challenge. What I'm going to tell you, teach you, and guide you on is changing that as you're in your leadership role, whether or not you're an entrepreneur, a CEO, a co-founder, a parent, a partner, just for your own self. Very, very important to change that framework, to change your training, and to completely turn all of that upside down and give your body a new way of operating. So we are very, very much running a 1960s operating system for 2020, which is just so outdated. It's like using an old Microsoft kind of PC from the original form in today's quantum, hi-fi, fast speed intellectual capacity with digital data. So we've got to get up to speed, right? But it also means we have to get rid of these outdated programs that sit within us. The first outdated program is that happiness is fleeting. This is really the fundamental teaching in a lot of religions, a lot of spiritual tapestry around peace and harmony. A lot of the stuff I work with at very, very, very high-end, multi-million-dollar leadership level is flow. So when you are in the flow, when you're making an agreement in flow, when you're making a new product, you're making a new company, and you're in a state of flow, which is complete union with self and happiness in that idea and creativity and for good intent, it's got a much better chance of working out than when you're trying to sell something in or force something to fit. It's a bit like the expression force majeure. Often people are forced to make things work when really that's the antithesis of how we should be doing things. So backing yourself means understanding that your crazy ideas and the inner GPS is actually right. You've actually just got to take all the layers of programming off all of that to give yourself the space, the freedom, and the clarity to go after what you want. Because we need you in your individual sovereign self. We don't want you to be like everybody else that you're watching, listening to. You don't want to be like me or like your CFO or your cousin, or you need to be in your truest form in all areas of multidimensional self. So intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically on point. That means you have to pay attention to yourself. And that's actually really alarming when we've actually been conditioned to put all our attention out of self, right? So I'm asking you to pay attention to yourself, not because it's egocentric or selfish or self-centered, but actually because it's crucial for you to access your true connected leadership, which is, being grounded and focused. So when you're grounded and focused, that's when you can make the best decisions in your sovereign self. But we have to learn what that feels like. That's not just a word on a vision board or Instagram quote. It's actually a feeling. It's actually a discernment that is this quiet kind of pause when you know that that's right. It's so quiet that we've often missed it, because the noise of the world, the noise of conditioning, the noise of patterns, programming, shoulds, woulds, coulds, blames, shames, judgments, or positioning ourselves to achieve a certain thing has often taken over. So the first myth that I want to bust with you, taking the next step to trust your ideas, is that you have to let go of the past defining your future. If you've had shitty situations, if you had marriages that have broken down, businesses that haven't worked, if you've never kind of managed your finances well before, that's okay, but that does not mean that is your continued pattern for the future. It will only be your continued pattern for the future if you continue to do the same things and expect different results. So that is the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So the scariest thing that I ask most of my leaders to do is to simplify, which means getting to the truth and understanding that their ideas are actually vital. So the higher we get to the top, the more responsibility we have. Often the sense of self-trust is diluted because the risk is greater to have a message, have a share of voice, drive an idea through, or once you've finally got there, you're exhausted at the top of the mountain. You don't want to have to topple off. That's the wrong way to approach it. I encourage you, leader, in a serious way now to realize that if you are at the top, you have even more responsibility to be your full personal self, to trust your ideas, to evolve, to grow spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually because you're leading. It doesn't mean you can get comfortable and suddenly turn off the knowing that got you to that point in the first place. And you also need to stop the idea that everything else is more important than you. So I want to challenge you with something. If I told you that I've got a guaranteed $1 million project, it's all yours. All you need to do is spend the next week with a dedicated half an hour a day minimum to working on defining that project, what it needs, what it wants, the approach, and then that project is definitely yours. $1 million, a week to prepare it, at least half an hour a day, and then present your pitch back. I'm pretty sure that you would put the time into doing that. But the problem is that we don't put that same energy, conviction, preparation to our own thoughts. And then we get really annoyed and upset and frustrated that we're receiving and ending up in a life that is really unfulfilling. But that's because we have not put the time into planning our own $1 million project, which is our own wants and needs. So today you need to you need to dare to define what you want to act on. You need to understand the blurts that are blocking you, and you need to have the courage to act. And that's what these 3 things are about. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. And I want to talk to you about the art of articulating your needs, desires, and wants and your thoughts gracefully. Because I feel like a lot of the times when we're articulating our truth, because it's such a new thing, it can come out aggressively or it can be perceived as aggressive. And it can be confronting. And in today's world, not a lot of people know how to handle the truth because it's kind of delivered in a very kind of, cutthroat way. So once you've come into your own discernment, you've defined what you wanted, you've understood the roadblocks, and you have the courage to act. The way to tile that up is to have the grace and humility to stand by yourself, to back yourself, which is the whole purpose of today's Mojo and the whole purpose of what I do. So in today's episode, just moving forward, I'm going to give you the 3 essential frameworks in that grounded and focused kind of thing. And I'll put these images there as well to really step into your own self and to be able to voice that without fear of conflict and judgment or shame, so important. And to gracefully break the old habit of continually sabotaging your own self-worth. You might not even know you're doing it, but it's definitely one of the biggest challenges, to effortlessly practice the defining, discerning, and delivering of your message. So I want to show you another really fancy design. You know me, when I'm always doing my books and my worksheets for my clients, I always write these diagrams. So, of course, Amy, my designer, she's made it look much more sexy than this, but this is just my original version. I like to pull out my original copies that I have everywhere from all the books and the worksheets that I write. But this is kind of from my quantum decision-making stuff. So, and it's the adulting book, right? It's how to back yourself. So column A, you've got to get a sheet of paper. I always say grab a sheet of paper, get off the internet, grab a pen, create a quiet space. Don't put any music on because you want to listen to yourself, so you don't want any distractions. Like, you're your greatest asset. So, stop making excuses and start putting pen to paper. And column A is, what do you really want? What idea, what do you want to act on? What action do you want to have happen? What really lights you up? What does your soul want? Whether it's a person, a project, something to happen in a relationship, what will fulfill you? What is next? What do you want, right? And then while you're doing that column, it can be many things. It can be on any level. Remember, this is your stuff. This isn't someone else's that you've seen on the internet, or this is really, really fundamentally your thing. And most importantly, when I do this at board of director level, it's really confronting for C-suite to actually sit down and focus on what they want and then have to think about sharing that. It actually makes people petrified, because it's very easy to throw an idea against a budget, to talk about a project, or to discuss someone else. But when the spotlight is back on you and what you really desire, what really you want in a role, for example, when you're going through a joint venture, or if you're looking at maybe changing the equity within your shareholder group, or you're having a management buyout, or whatever's going on, or you're transitioning and you're doing a collaboration in business, you've got to be able to know what your wants and needs are. Otherwise, you've got no negotiation point. And all you're doing is underselling your happiness. But when you believe that happiness is a constant, then you're very happy to step in, because you know you can never lose, as long as you're willing to discern it, define it, and deliver the message, right? Discern, define, deliver. So that's this column here. This is about the courage to define what you want. And I will tell you, I work mostly with guys, I think because I'm a little bit no bullshit, so I kind of like the direct approach. And plus, I don't do hope projects. So I like to go, what do we need to get into? But getting started on the what do I want, the idea to action, is actually really hard, because you think it has to be perfect. But just start with one or two things. And then this is a very important column. This is column B. My ego is called Bob, so I hope you've named your ego. But this is the blurts that block us. So this is the, oh, well, that would be nice, but I don't even know how they would go for that, or that just seems a little extreme, or I don't know. This is the blurt that comes with your idea. This is your programming that is built in to block you from your truest GPS. So you must identify it and write it down, and you will have them. Nobody is exempt, and your ego stays with you for life. You've just got to understand whether or not you want to listen to it. The last column is the courage to act. And I think this is the most important thing, because once you've kind of identified and you've dared to define, and then you've understood the discernment between who you're going to listen to, you or your ego, you can start to figure out, what do I need to ask for? What is the next step to make this happen? And that's all you need to do. And that's called backing yourself. But how can you back yourself if you haven't put time in to figure those things out? If you haven't understood where the patterns and programming are that are keeping you stuck. Now, I just want to give a little reference to quantum physics, because for me, there's some fantastic documentaries, and for some reason, I'm fascinated with the exchange of energy. And I'm always testing out theories on this in terms of thinking, things, places, opportunities, objects, energies, from nature to people to ideas to currency. Energy exchange happens all the time. But what we don't do is we don't apply the law of physics and quantum physics in our everyday lives into our heart center, which is the atom called nous, N-O-U-S. So part of our heart has an atom in it that has the nous, which is this learned kind of patterning, records, and intelligence that comes with us through lifetimes. It's passed on. But we need to have quiet to access that. So if you've constantly got this kind of what I call Times Square busyness, like this white noise always going on, then how the heck are you able to hear the quiet little voice that knows exactly where you need to be going? Now, the skills that I'm teaching you are for personal or commercial. They're for a moment in the boardroom. They're for looking at a contract. They're for looking at a loved one. They're for how you approach your child. They're for how we communicate to each other, because everything has an energy exchange. So if you just slowed everything down and you centered and grounded your intent from the purest energy, it will give you the purest results. But we're too busy trying to preempt. We're too busy trying to avoid failure or conflict. We're too busy trying to assume or attend to what could happen next than to understand the critical power of presence. And when you can really, truly do that, you don't have to go to a Tibetan mountain to understand it. It happens within inside yourself. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you on this quantum decision-making journey at the moment. So let me just take that a little bit further. If we believe that anything is possible, because we all know, we just know that if you think it, it usually happens, then why are we constantly trying to put a lid on happiness, opportunities, lasting harmony, and a sense of being our truest self? Why don't we feel we deserve it? You have my permission to do this list. You have my permission to pursue creativity, happiness, quantum decision making, the quiet, yourself, the key things that make you a crucial foundation in the building of our earth, our communities, and our companies. You, not a clone of someone else, but your entire self to all of its best capacity, best supported. So if we're stuck all the time trying to avoid past pains, hurts, and perceived failures, that our programming puts this healthy dose of cynicism, well, I don't want to go down that track before, or then all we're doing is avoiding the truest potential route to our true self and happiness. So that total abundance and flow really is a reality, but we're so busy avoiding the risk that we never really end up on that right thing. So what we think about expands. If you're so busy thinking about what you don't want, then that's probably what you'll end up getting. So I urge you today to start doing what you do want and to understand the blurts that tell you why that could be a bad idea, who would block that, who else you'd upset, etc. Conflict, blame, shame, guilt, fear. And then I want you to think about taking action. So once again, the leap of faith, fall or fly video on my YouTube channel is exceptionally important, not only because the diagrams are so rudimentary, but also because it is the factual way to understand that you have to let go of the walls of discomfort that you know so well and trust that you will fly. And when you combine the facts and stats, your intellectual properties and your experience with your internal GPS, that is heart and head, it is an ultimate system for knowledge and for empowerment. So be clear, have consciousness, be grounded, but most of all, you'll find that when you make decisions from being grounded and focused, and when you do this ABC, you're doing it for your higher self, so you can't go wrong, you're in the flow. But there's a feeling that comes from being in the flow. It's effortless, it's calm, it's quiet, it's sure, but it's very, very soft. It doesn't scream at you. You just know. It's almost like one word. If there's a lot of words, it's probably because you're over-rationalizing a situation and it's not right. Anyway, I hope you're listening to this not because something kicked you out of the nest and you had to start learning to fly, but because you're actually willing to evolve in your leadership role, in the way that you open to see opportunities, that you way to run and lead companies, because we need good values making good money in this world. We need a good exchange of currency based on really, really good flow and intent of when a deal is made, of when exchange of love happens, that it's for all the right reasons. Because if you are yourself, then someone knows exactly what they were getting. There's no surprises. So congruently being yourself is not only less exhausting, but it's completely easy because you don't have to pretend. You don't have to pitch and you don't have to propose anything. You just are there. So, I think that this is about surrendering to the larger picture, and a lot of that is going to come through on some of my coaching, which is why I encourage you to understand quantum physics, the power of neuroplasticity, neuroscience, reprogramming, and the power of our cellular construction and reconstruction in our bodies, and how extremely smart our bodies and our minds are, and how everything is interrelated. We all know it, that little niggle voice that goes, listen to it. Don't ignore it. Don't push it aside. Trust yourself. Learn that. It's like having a tricycle with training wheels on. Just start testing out the theory. Some of my clients will know this analogy, but I call it owling. I call it being a white owl. So that means just instead of hunting for everything, just observe. You sit on a branch, observe things from a third-party perspective. Observe yourself, observe other people. Don't make any judgments, but just kind of give a little bit of an acknowledgement of what's really going on. And I think what's really important is that we have to understand that life is this journey, and you have to replace fear with curiosity. This message really is for those of you that are responsible for large organizations, you're responsible for your families, but most of all, first and foremost, oxygen mask first, you're responsible for yourself. Because when you stand in your sovereign self, when you respect your body, when you stop diminishing the pain or the perceived failures, and when you stop numbing life and you start stepping into it, that's when magic really happens. But I urge you to stop the numbing, to stop the blame, shame, or the kind of codependent sort of, I need to do this or I have to be there for that person, you know when it's not reciprocal. You know deep down when that cycle is unhealthy. You have to break that cycle because we need more healthy relationships. We need more healthy organizations, and we need healthier leadership. And that really, really starts with you. So I always say to my clients, your deep self knows where it's going. I'm just the navigator lighting the runway up one row at a time, right? Because every one of you listening to this, any time you're listening, this is completely timeless. You have to understand that you have your own sovereign purpose on this planet, your own sovereign combination of intellect, of physical, emotional, and spiritual abilities. To truly lead, you have to tap into all of those. So I encourage you to stop the cycle of unnecessary hardship in life's lessons, to go, oh, I dusted myself up and I get back up again. I think resilience should be replaced by curiosity, and to start really tuning into that GPS that's going to light your way up. So how you navigate a group of directors, how you understand that when everything under the hood is in alignment, there's nothing to hide. So be your true self. And remember the 10-90 rule, folks. So 10% of your time should be stressing about what happened in the past, and 90% should be what's next. Embrace it. So have the courage to write down the ideas that you want to act on. What do you want? And then understand the blurts that come with it. Don't just leave them in your head, but really write them down. Acknowledge that your ego is your biggest saboteur. No one else. No one else is sitting there telling you can't. It's you. It could be past programming, but you're still the one that's continuing to dine out on that story. And the third thing is you must have the courage to act. And that doesn't happen until you define the steps you need to do that. So I hope this helps. It's a 30-minute Monday Mojo. It really is on the power of backing yourself. You must lean in. You have to have the courage to define. You have to understand the discernment between self-talk, the stories that you tell yourself constantly, and that quiet self-knowing voice, that deep GPS. You have to harness that. Grab it, lead with it, define it. I don't know, if you have to write it out a million times, whatever will make it work, and then learn to deliver your message with clarity and conviction and calm, because when you're in your truth, your true truth, it's the right thing for everybody, and it will give you an immediate peace. It will elaborate on what truly is in alignment for everybody, and it will also eradicate fear. It will eradicate positioning, overselling, anxiety, sleepless nights, and worry that you've done the wrong thing or something's going to go wrong. Because truly, if you're really in the flow and you understand the all-purpose, all-knowing, and the idea of quantum physics, then anything is possible. So what you think about is the most crucial fuel you'll ever put into your body. So be thoughtful and mindful of choosing your thoughts. And remember, guys, you can have this on replay. You can go to thevitalitycoach.com.au to sign up for Monday Mojo. Join my Facebook page and Fogden-Moore Instagram. But most importantly, I really hope I give you the tools not to just think, oh, that's kind of nice, but to start stepping up and going, how can I take a tangible insight, a little glimpse of knowing there's more out there, and start unfolding that and applying it daily. And that's with very simple things. You don't need fancy worksheets. You need a plain piece of paper, 3 columns, and the attitude that you are your greatest asset. So you need to step up now. Back yourself, be your best self. Life is not a dress rehearsal. Companies need to thrive with great leaders, and that means investing in understanding the truest form of quantum decision making. And you have just as much the ability to do that as anyone else. If you get stuck, you've got questions, please leave comments below. Join me next time. Email me, nikki@thevitalitycoach.com.au. But I'm really grateful for those of you that are subscribing. It's new to go live like this. And I hope this information is valuable. I hope that you trust your own path and that you back yourself because you matter and you're worth it. So thanks for tuning in. Stay healthy, wealthy, wise. Books, links, any other stuff, it's all there on my website, thevitalitycoach.com.au. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video as you loved it. Always in gratitude and mucho mojo to you. Have a great day wherever you are, and thanks for tuning in. Hey, Roxy. Mm-hmm.